Join me now for more Democratic strategists Matt Lippman and James Lacy, the author of Taxophornia and also a Trump supporter. Again, good to see you both. Matt, I want to start with you. Last month, Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer, he warned the president that he would be making a big mistake by firing the FBI director, James Comey. Could this actually be a huge miscalculation by the president?
Well, it was a big miscalculation by the president. When Schumer had that conversation with Trump, it was after Comey was fired, so it was already too late. Remember that Trump thought at that time that firing Comey would be met with applause by the Democrats.
Yeah.
Obviously, that didn't happen. And that has led to the special counsel being appointed. So this nightmare continues for the Trump administration, but it's of Trump's own doing. He's the one who chose to fire Comey. Apparently, he fired Comey because Comey wouldn't end this investigation.
So James, a miscalculation?
Well, I think the result has been a good one, though. I saw a poll just the other day here in California that shows that 54% of the people are happy that Robert Mueller is in charge of the investigation. There's only like 10 or 15% that are opposing it. So I think that the result has been that we've got a really, really good, competent person that has a lot of public support and should have support on Capitol Hill to conduct the investigation.
Okay. Well, the president and his supporters, the strategy now seems to be trying to discredit James Comey. A pro-Trump group released, or they will release, a TV spot which will play as Comey delivers his testimony. Here's a clip.
As head of the FBI, James Comey put politics over protecting America. After the FBI banned terms like radical Islam for political correctness, Comey allowed the dangerous practice to continue. When terror attacks were on the rise last year, Comey was consumed with election meddling, and after he testified before the U.S. Senate, Comey's own staff admitted some of his answers were flat out wrong. James Comey, just another D.C. insider, only in it for himself.
We can talk about that at the moment because there's obviously some issues with it. But just to your point about opinion polls, James, ABC Washington Post poll shows 61% believe Donald Trump fired Comey to protect himself rather than for the good of the country. And if you want to talk about the question of credibility, it could be a bigger problem for the president.
Yeah, but, you know, I think that if you look at Comey, realistically, he's become a political figure as opposed to a law enforcement figure. And, you know, you don't want your director of the FBI to be someone who can bounce back and forth between support from Democrats or Republicans, because there were different periods of time during the campaign when he was at one point standing up and saying that Hillary Clinton was under investigation, and then he absolved her and said that that they were not going to prosecute her. Then they came back and made a public announcement. I could see how political he looks to Donald Trump, and I can understand Trump's frustration when I read the statement. You know, you go through that statement, something remarkable that hasn't been talked about enough is that Comey says again and again to Trump that 3 times that he's not a target of investigation. Then Trump says, well, why don't you say something public about it? And Comey doesn't say, well, I'm not going to say something public about it. He says, well, I'll think about that. I'll talk to the Attorney General about it. Give me a couple of weeks. Oh, yeah, and that stringing along, I think, helped to create the frustration on the part of Trump that this guy was a guy who was becoming a political figure.
He did say that he should have, I think he noted that he did not tell the president that he did not make the announcement, because then he would have to make another announcement should the situation change.
Well, now, of course, they're going to have an investigation because of the obstruction, but the president asking the FBI director over and over again to drop this, basically saying you have to be loyal to me, not to the country, and then firing the FBI director. Obviously, there's now going to be this will be part of what Mueller is doing, this obstruction investigation.
Yeah, but you have to look at the consequence. Again, Flynn was fired, and I think that from Trump's perspective, this was someone who had taken an action against. Now, you recall that I think it was the Washington Post, maybe it was the New York Times, published an FBI leak that said that there was no evidence that Flynn had actually violated the law. So, of course, there was. And so, of course, you're having an investigation, but because of this FBI leak, which was, I believe, the day before he talked to Comey and said, I hope you can drop the investigation, you know, you have this situation.
You think that Trump is dumber than I think he is, because Trump clearly knows the difference. Trump is like a mafia boss. I mean, he's saying to the head of the FBI, you have to be loyal to me, not to the FBI, not to justice.
Yeah, we're talking about this question about the you know, being asked for an oath of loyalty. You know, again, James Comey says that he was asked for that oath of loyalty. The president says that he did not ask him for that, but it was probably a good idea. Listen to this.
Did you ask that question? No, I didn't. But I don't think it would be a bad question to ask. I think loyalty to the country, loyalty to the United States is important. You know, I mean, it depends on how you define loyalty. Number one. Number two, I don't know how that got there, because I didn't ask that question.
So, Matt, yeah, loyalty to the country, loyalty to the Constitution, but the FBI director, loyalty to the president, it seems that, you know, if that was what the president was asking for, he doesn't understand what the importance of an independent FBI is all about.
Or an independent Justice Department, or any of the other people who testified today, who he apparently discussed this with as well. He seems to not realize that people work for the country, not necessarily for Donald Trump, and can't do Donald Trump's bidding. But this is part of the problem. This administration hasn't filled an incredible array of jobs. They can't get anything done. Their agenda's already dead in the water. Part of this is because of the way that Donald Trump perceives himself, which is this loyalty to me. Now, who's going to go work in this administration?
Because, James, the argument being made is that Donald Trump still thinks he's running Trump Corporation, where you know, there are no checks and balances, and you essentially run the place as you want.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that, but an invitation to be loyal is not a directive to violate the law. And you saw yourself, Matt, just earlier, the president outlined what he meant by loyalty, which included to be loyal to the nation. You know, he is the president.
He included that? That's very nice.
He is the top federal, well, but you saw it. He is the top federal official. And at the end of the day, Comey, at the time he was talking to him, is a federal employee. And I think it's a fair question to ask, and I think that too much emphasis, frankly, is being put on it as some sort of an invitation to commit a crime, because I can tell you, as an attorney, it's not an invitation to commit a crime to ask someone to be loyal.
Okay. Well, it is in this case. And Donald Trump made everybody else leave the room.
Because you're subjectively connecting your request for loyalty to commit a crime.
Okay.
I think you can assume
you spoke already. I'm going to talk.
All right.
Donald Trump asked a couple times for everybody else to leave the room so he could ask this guy one-on-one, please drop an investigation. He's the president. There's supposed to be a separation between he and the FBI director. Barack Obama never did it.
Twice. He didn't ask him to drop the investigation. He said, I hope you would consider what you're going to do on this. That was not a direction to drop the investigation. He
asked him repeatedly if he would drop the investigation.
It doesn't rise to the level of a crime.
I hope you could see your way to doing this, or something. I think was I hope you would look at this. Okay, the Comey, one of the explanations for all of this, you sort of touched on this. There have been a lot of explanations about the interactions between the FBI director and the president, and then we had this explanation from the New Jersey governor, Chris Christie.
What you're seeing is a president who is now very publicly learning about the way people react to what he considers to be normal New York City conversation.
Matt, you're from New York. Is that how you guys talk out east?
You know, first of all, Chris Christie, just a reminder, the least popular governor in the United States, probably will find his way into the Trump administration at some point. But this is like when they used to say locker room talk when Trump said some terrible things before. Now this is how people talk in New York City. It isn't. Donald Trump is now the president of the United States, pains me to say, but he is the president of the United States. He does understand the difference. He does want James Comey. He fired James Comey for a reason. The reason was that James Comey wouldn't drop this case.
And James, Chris Christie seems to be implying that Donald Trump's learning on the job, and this is sort of he was naive in a way.
Yeah. Viewers need to understand that this is exactly why Donald Trump was elected president, because he cuts against the whole political correctness theme. And Donald, and it's my turn to talk too. Donald Trump won in 30 of 50 states. He won in 230 congressional districts, a majority of the congressional districts. Donald Trump won in more counties than any president has won in presidential history since Ronald Reagan, and he did it by getting middle-class voters, people who weren't highly politically attuned, but people who are hardworking, to vote for him because he spoke like them.
They also thought that he would be competent as a CEO, and it turns out that he's been completely
He's very competent. You know that consumer confidence has never been better. Your 401k is growing. There is the stock market is advancing.
Right.
He's just through rhetoric, he's been able to cut 71% illegal immigration has been cut back.
Nothing passed through Congress.
Right.
The first president, is this the first president in history?
Because senators in your party won't allow it.
The Republican Congress, Republican Senate, Republican House, what does it have to do with the Democrats?
Answer this, Matt, though, because the president was out trying to sell his infrastructure plan. And, all the news networks had the countdown clock, 3 days to, James Comey testimony, 2 days, 1 day, that kind of stuff. But, in the heartland, where people actually live and have, families and problems and issues, how much does this Russia stuff matter? And how much are they more worried about infrastructure and jobs and all that?
Well, I think that Donald Trump said a while ago that he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and his supporters won't care. There's, to an extent, that's true. I think he's got this 35% base. But instead of, when he first came in as president, it was about 40-41. It's dropped 6 points. The level of strong support for Donald Trump amongst his supporters has also dropped. The support amongst those 35% has weakened. So I think people do care about this, but there is a segment that will not care. That's okay.
Okay, last word to Matt. Good to see you both, James and Matt. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks.
Most appreciate it.